Today in African history, brought to you by Merchant of Knowledge Africa.
April 15th, 1517. The forces of the Ottoman Empire enter Cairo and complete their conquest of the Mamluks, who have ruled Egypt since 1250. The Turks kill the last Mamluk Sultan, Tuman Bey II, and hang his body over the city gate for 3 days. However, Egypt will prove such a difficult place to administer that the Ottomans will eventually give up and grant semi-autonomy to the country. April 15th, 1689. The Dutch ship the Noord sails from the Cape Town, South Africa, and heads east and north on a mission to chart the coast. Also tasked with locating the crew of the shipwrecked Stavenus, the Noord is to continue to De La Goa, Delgoa Bay, Mozambique. When they are located, the shipwrecked crew will report that they were well treated by the indigenous peoples, and the land there is fertile and full of cattle. Maize is grown in abundance, and can be stored for years underground. The local people refuse to enter into the slave trade, for they will not part with their children, or any of their connections, for anything in the world, loving one another with a most remarkable strength. April 15th, 1872. A rare Indian Ocean cyclone hits East Africa, moving across Zanzibar and striking the mainland at Bagamoyo, German East Africa, Tanzania. Survivors must cope with devastating storm damage. April 15th, 1876. Algiers' large Neo-Byzantine Catholic Church, the Notre Dame d'Afrique, opens as Pope Pius IX decrees its status as a basilica. April 15th, 1906. The first African student to enroll at Columbia University in New York, Pixley K. Isaka Siem from Zululand, South Africa, is awarded Columbia's highest oratorical honor, and is profiled in the New York Times. As a symbol, he is seen as a beneficiary of white Christian missionaries' civilizing influence and is burdened with uplifting his people when he returns to Africa. He will pass the bar to become a South African lawyer in 1910, and be a founding organizer of the African National Congress that will seek black South African rights and ultimately overturn the apartheid system. April 15th, 1912. South African passengers are aboard the SS Titanic when it strikes an iceberg and sinks in the North Atlantic. Elizabeth Brown and her daughter Eileen survive in a lifeboat, but their husband and father Thomas Brown perishes. Also killed are Charles Chapman, Austin Blyler, and his sons James and Walter, William Bull, Mary Griffin, Francesco Celotti, Nathan Goldsmith, and Sidney Jacobson, whose wife Amy does survive. April 15th, 1942. The British movie 49th Parallel is released in the US as The Invaders, but with the deletion of a line said by a Nazi commander, "Eskimos are sub-apes like Negroes, one step above the Jews." The line is censored, but not to avoid offending Africans or people of African descent, Native Americans, or Jews. The line is cut to avoid offending racists in America's South who share the opinion but don't want to hear it said by a Nazi, with whom the US is at war. April 15th, 1952. Exactly 80 years to the day after a rare cyclone hit Zanzibar and German East Africa, Tanzania, the Lindi tropical cyclone makes landfall in British Tanganyika. Because the colony has developed since 1872, damage and casualties are higher.
Today in African history, brought to you by Merchant of Knowledge Africa.